Stop the math for a moment. We're halfway through. I want you to do something different here. I'm going to ask you 4 questions, not rhetorically. Actually answer them. In your head, out loud, and a note on your phone. It doesn't matter how, but answer them honestly. Question 1. If you stopped working tomorrow, not by choice, but because your body or your industry forced you to, how many months could you cover your current life? Not your reduced life, your current life. Mortgage, groceries, insurance, the actual life you're living right now. For most Americans, the honest answer is somewhere between 2 and 4 months. Question 2. If you keep doing exactly what you're doing, same savings rate, same investments, same everything, at what age can you stop working? Most people have never run this number. They have a vague feeling. The feeling is almost always wrong. The feeling is almost always 5 to 10 years too optimistic. Question 3. What does the first Tuesday of your retirement actually look like? Where are you? Who are you with? What do you do at 10 a.m.? If you cannot answer this in concrete detail, you are not saving for retirement. You are saving for an abstraction. And abstractions do not motivate behavior change. Question 4. Is there a blue vest in your future? Jerk. Not as a metaphor, literally. Is there a version of your life where you are 67 years old, standing somewhere, doing work you would not choose because you have to? If the honest answer is maybe, or I don't know, or I try not to think about it, that is the answer, and it is the only signal you need to change something this week. Okay, back to the math. David's house is worth $580,000. He bought it in 1998 for $215,000. On paper, that looks like extraordinary investment performance, $365,000 in appreciation over 27 years. It isn't, and the gap between what it looks like and what it actually is one of the most expensive misunderstandings in American financial life. Your house has value, just not the kind that funds retirement. Those are two different things. Conflating them is the trap. Robert Shiller, Nobel laureate, the economist who built the housing data set everyone else uses, found that U.S. home prices, adjusted for inflation, have appreciated approximately 0.6% per year over the long term. 0.6%. The S&P 500 over the same period, roughly 7% annually after inflation. David's house didn't return 170% over 27 years. Inflation did most of that work. The actual real return after property taxes, maintenance, insurance, and improvements is closer to break even. Here's what he thought he was earning, and here's what he actually earned. He poured an extra $648,000 over 27 years into a larger house than he needed. Bigger mortgage, more property tax, more maintenance, more insurance, more furniture, more utilities. If that $648,000 had been invested in a standard index fund portfolio over those same 27 years, he would have $2,700,000. Not in equity, in actual liquid investments, the kind you can spend. A house you love is worth owning. A house you bought because it was an investment when it was actually a lifestyle expense and investment costume is the most expensive mistake on this list. The fix is not don't own a home. The fix is honesty about what your home actually is. The 28% rule, total housing costs, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, should not exceed 28% of gross income. Above that line, the house starts eating the retirement. Most Americans above that line do not know they are above it. Run the number this week. This one isn't a financial decision, but it determines whether the financial decisions matter at all. Stay with me. This is the one most people miss entirely. Grip strength, literally how hard you can squeeze, is one of the strongest predictors of mortality in the medical literature, stronger than blood pressure, stronger than cholesterol. It's not magic. Grip strength is a proxy for whole body muscle mass. Muscle mass is a proxy for metabolic health, fall risk, recovery capacity, and the ability to live independently. People with adequate muscle mass at 65 spend an average of $315,000 on healthcare from 65 to death. People with low muscle mass at 65 spend an average of $471,000 on healthcare from 65 to death. A $156,000 difference, driven primarily by something you control. 2 hours of resistance training a week, starting at any age, measurably changes that trajectory. Every hour of resistance training in your 40s and 50s is worth more in retirement dollars saved than an hour of overtime. You are not behind on retirement only if your brokerage account is small. You are behind on retirement if your body cannot afford to retire. The fix is mechanical: 2 strength sessions a week, compound movements, progressive load. Start this week at whatever level you can start. The retirement account funded by your muscles cannot be hacked, cannot be inflated away, and compounds in a way no index fund matches. Social Security is the most underutilized retirement asset most Americans own. Filing at 62 versus filing at 70 changes your monthly benefit by 76%. Not 7.6%, 76%. For the median earner, that's the difference between $1,900 a month and $3,350 a month, every month for the rest of your life, adjusted for inflation. Over a 20-year retirement, the gap is approximately $340,000. 64% of Americans file before full retirement age. Most do it without running the math. Most do it because they're tired or scared or because someone at a barbecue told them, "Get yours before it runs out." The barbecue advice has cost American retirees collectively hundreds of billions of dollars. If you are 35, this decision is 27 years away. The choice you make then will be shaped by what you save now, because the people who can afford to wait until 70 are the people who saved enough to bridge the gap. If you are 55, this is your single most consequential remaining financial decision. Go to ssa.gov, pull your statement, run the actual numbers for filing at 62, at full retirement age, and at 70. Most people have never done this. It takes 9 minutes. Schwab found that only 33% of Americans have a written financial plan. The 67% without one underperform across every measurable category by margins that compound into hundreds of thousands of dollars over a working life. Why does a written plan matter so much? 3 reasons. 1. Specificity. A goal in your head is a wish. A goal on paper is a decision. The act of writing forces precision that thinking does not. 2. Reference point. When markets crash, when life shifts, when a raise arrives, a written plan tells you what you already decided to do before the emotion arrived. It removes the worst decision maker from the process, you in a panic. 3. Emotional override. Most financial mistakes happen in moments of high feeling. A written plan, reviewed in a moment of calm, beats every instinct delivered in a moment of fear. Feelings are expensive. A written plan is the cheapest insurance against your own feelings that exists. It doesn't need to be elaborate. 1 page, your savings rate, your target retirement age, your asset allocation, your rules for what to do when markets drop 20%, your rules for what to do when you get a raise, your rules for helping family members. Written before you need them, followed when you do. David never wrote one, not because he was lazy, because nobody told him it mattered. The plan he had was a feeling. The feeling was, "I'm doing okay." The feeling was wrong for 27 years before the math made it undeniable. There's one more concept I have to give you. It's the most technically complex thing in this video. It's also the one that determines whether the other 10 matter. Stay with me for 90 seconds. 2 people retire with identical $1 million portfolios, identical withdrawal rates, identical average returns over 30 years. One runs out of money at 79. One dies at 95 with $2 million left. Same average return, completely different lives. The difference is when the bad years arrived. If your first 5 years of retirement happen to coincide with a market crash while you're withdrawing money, the portfolio never recovers. You're selling shares at the bottom to fund living expenses. Those shares aren't there to compound when the market rebounds. If the same crash happens 10 years later, after a decade of growth, the portfolio absorbs it easily. This is called sequence of returns risk. It is the single largest hidden risk in retirement. There is a fix. It's called a bond tent. You hold more bonds in the 5 years before and the 5 years after retirement, then gradually shift back to equities. Any fee-only fiduciary can build one for you. You don't need to understand the mechanics. You need to know the question to ask. How are you protecting me from sequence of returns risk in the 5 years before and after I retire? If your advisor cannot answer that question in a sentence, you have the wrong advisor. Which brings us to the 3 facts I promised you. The first one I already gave you, the HSA. The account that is, mathematically, the most tax-efficient retirement vehicle in the United States, and that most Americans have never been told to maximize. Here are the other two. Fact 2. The 4% rule, the foundation of nearly every retirement plan in America, is based on research from 1994 using data from 1926 to 1976. It assumes bond yields and market valuations that no longer exist. Updated research from Morningstar in 2023 puts the safe withdrawal rate closer to 3.3%. That sounds small. It isn't. If you plan to retire on $1 million at 4%, you plan to live on $40,000 a year. At 3.3%, you actually have $33,000 a year. You are 17% poorer than you thought you were. Most retirement plans currently in circulation are built on math that hasn't been updated in 3 decades. Fact 3, and this is the one that should make you angry. Most financial advisors in the United States are not legally required to act in your best interest. Read that again. They are held to a suitability standard, meaning their recommendations must be suitable for someone like you. Not optimal, not best, suitable. A suitable product can pay them a 5% commission, while a nearly identical product with no commission would serve you better. That is legal. That is the system. The standard that requires them to act in your best interest is called the fiduciary standard. Only a fraction of advisors are bound by it. The reason David is wearing a blue vest at 67 is partly his own decisions, and partly the fact that the person he paid to advise him for 2 decades was legally permitted to recommend the products that paid them the most instead of the products that served him the best. That is the fact you should be angry about, not at David, not at yourself, at a system that allows it in 2026, after 30 years of evidence about what it costs ordinary people. The fix is concrete. Hire only a fee-only fiduciary. 2 words, fee-only, not fee-based. Fee-based is a marketing term that means the advisor takes both fees and commissions. Fee-only means they cannot. Find them at napfa.org or the Garrett Planning Network. 3 questions to ask in the first meeting. 1. Are you a fiduciary 100% of the time, in writing? 2. How are you compensated, in detail, with no products that pay you commissions? 3. How are you protecting me from sequence of returns risk? If they hesitate on any of these, walk out. You can do all of this. None of it requires genius. All of it requires deciding this week before the feeling fades. 1. Open or maximize your HSA this week. 2. Set your next raise to automatically split 50-50 between spending and saving before the raise arrives. 3. If you carry credit card debt, treat it as the emergency it is. Pay it before you invest anything beyond your employer match. 4. Automate your investments. Turn off the ability to react. Then forget the account exists. 5. 2 strength training sessions this week. Start at whatever level you can start. 6. Write the 1-page plan, today, tonight, before you sleep. Behavioral research is consistent. If you do not begin within 48 hours of deciding, the probability of ever beginning drops by more than 80%. 48 hours. Start one of the 6. David is still wearing the blue vest. He's a good man. He worked hard. He loved his family. He did, with the information he had, the best he could. He is not the villain of this story. He is the warning. The villain is a system that allowed 10 ordinary decisions, made in good faith, encouraged by people who profited from them, to compound into a life he did not choose. You have something David didn't have. You have the math. You have it before the decisions are locked in. You have the chance to write a different ending while the ending is still being written. If this video changed how you think about even one of the 10, send it to one person. The friend who's about to take Social Security at 62. The brother who's been carrying a credit card balance for a decade. The parent who's funding their adult child's life while their own retirement waits. Send it to one person. That's the only ask. Because David's neighbors are also wearing blue vests, and most of them never saw the math in time. Normal has stopped working. Normal has stopped working. You don't need to be exceptional to retire well. You need to stop being normal. Start tonight.